A lawyer showed up at our family dinner with important papers. I was confused, but I opened them and saw divorce papers I never asked for. My husband was calmly sipping wine. "Oh, we already decided you'd sign," he said. His mom leaned in. "It's best if you just go along with it." My hands were shaking as I flipped to the last page. I smiled. They had no idea what I had planned. "Hi, Reddit. This might be a long story. I'm still in shock, but I need to share it. Maybe it'll help me understand what just happened. I'm Olivia, 42. I've been married to Richard, who's 44, for 17 years. We have 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl. I work part-time as a bookkeeper in Bethesda, Maryland. Richard's a corporate lawyer. He's smart, good with people, and knows how to use legal loopholes. He always thinks he's one step ahead. But not this time. Let me tell you how it started. It was a Wednesday, roast chicken night. My daughter Emily, not her real name, was complaining because I forgot the garlic bread, again. I was in the kitchen finishing the mashed potatoes. The kids were upstairs, probably arguing over setting the table. Richard was already home, which was unusual. He had opened a fancy bottle of wine his mom brought back from her trip to Napa. Yes, his mom, Margaret. She'd been staying with us for over a week. She said she was helping around the house, but really, she was just bossing me around and judging everything I did. Quiet, cold, and controlling. Then the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands and opened the door. A man in a suit stood there with a briefcase. "Good evening," he said. "I'm looking for Olivia Bennett." "That's me." He nodded and opened his briefcase right there on the porch. "I'm Daniel Harper from Harper & Associates. I have some documents that need your attention." My stomach dropped. "Is something wrong?" I asked. He didn't answer, just handed me a thick envelope. I let him inside. Richard walked up behind me, holding his wine glass, looking way too calm. "What's going on?" I asked. Richard pointed to the dining table. "Let's sit. Let's make this official." The lawyer followed us in and placed the envelope on the table, like this was routine. I opened it with shaking hands. The top page said, "Petition for dissolution of marriage. Divorce papers." "I didn't file for divorce," I said. Richard sat down, crossed his legs, and sipped his wine like nothing was wrong. "We know. We already decided you'd sign." I couldn't even speak. My mouth was dry. Then Margaret leaned forward and said gently, "It's best if you just go along with it, dear." All I could hear was the ticking clock. I looked at the papers again. My name was on them. There were pages of numbers, money, property, custody plans. This wasn't a question. It was a plan. They had already made all the decisions. I was just supposed to sign. I barely got the words out. "Why?" Richard shrugged. "It's not working. You've been distracted. The kids are older. We agreed, it's time." "We," like I was part of that decision. I asked again, louder. "Why now?" He didn't even blink. "There's someone else." Just like that, no emotion, like he was reading off a work memo. And Margaret just sat there, calm, like this was all perfectly normal. That's when I saw the date on the papers. The papers weren't new. They were dated 2 weeks earlier. They had been planning this, waiting, plotting behind my back. I asked a question I didn't want to, but I had to. "Is she pregnant?" Richard didn't answer right away. He just took another sip of wine, like he had all the time in the world. Then he finally said, "Yes." It felt like someone slapped me. Margaret reached out and patted my hand. "It's okay, Olivia, your time has passed. You'll find your own path. You just need to let go." Let go? Let go of the home I built. The children I raised while he worked long hours? The years I spent making birthdays special, holidays perfect, and everyday life calm and happy? Let go of my marriage like it was just an old sweater. I didn't say anything, I just kept reading the papers. I found the custody section. He wanted full custody, said I was emotionally unstable. He had set that up too. A few weeks ago, I had a panic attack in the grocery store, first one in years. I'd been stressed, who wouldn't be? Dealing with his mother, dealing with him being cold and distant. I told him, hoping he'd care. He didn't. He made a note of it. I kept flipping through the papers. He said I was often absent. I worked 20 hours a week. You'd think I was gone for months the way he described it. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from anger. Then I saw the last page, a signature line, a date already filled in. They really thought I would sign. I looked up. They were watching me, waiting for me to give up. I smiled. That's when things started to change. There I was, at my own dinner table, the roast chicken going cold, my kids upstairs doing homework, and my husband and his mother acting like I was the problem, for not signing away my life. But I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. I didn't sign. Instead, I neatly folded the papers, placed them on the table, looked at the lawyer, Daniel Harper, and calmly asked, "Have you ever served papers to someone who knows how to flip the script?" He blinked, confused. "Ma'am, You might want to sit back," I said with a smile. "You're about to see something interesting." I stood up and walked to the master bedroom. Inside the closet, in a small safe, was a black folder labeled O. They thought I'd forgotten about it. Richard hadn't touched it in years. But I had never forgotten. Inside that folder were copies of things Richard never thought I'd seen. Let me explain. 6 years ago, Richard made a big mistake. He forgot to log out of his laptop while I was booking a rental car. I wasn't snooping, but there was a tab open, a spreadsheet showing offshore accounts. When I asked him about it, he lied and said it was for a client. I didn't believe him. So I printed what I could, took notes, copied account numbers whenever I got the chance. I didn't do anything with it then. But a voice inside me said, "You're not as safe as you think you are." And now, here we were, back at the table. I dropped the folder in front of Richard. His whole face changed. The smug look disappeared. Margaret narrowed her eyes. "What's that?" "Something I forgot I had," I said, but just remembered. Richard didn't move, didn't even look at the folder. "Olivia, don't be dramatic." "Oh, I'm not. These are just copies of money transfers, shell companies, mostly Cayman Islands, nothing big, just a few million you never told the IRS about." Harper, the lawyer, sat up straight. I turned to him. "Still want me to sign something tonight?" He opened his mouth, then shut it. He looked at Richard, then back at me. Quietly, he packed up his papers. "I think we should rescue," he mumbled and left. Now it was just the three of us. Margaret sat stiff, staring at Richard. "You told me this would be simple. You said she wouldn't fight." Richard stood, shaking his head. "She's bluffing." I wasn't. And I had more. I started therapy last year. Not because I was unstable, like he claimed. 2 days passed. Richard barely spoke, only when he had to. Margaret hovered, tried to act helpful. But I saw it, the fear behind her tight little smiles. Then Friday morning, a letter arrived. Not an email. A letter. From my son's school. Apparently, someone, take a wild guess, had requested to transfer both kids to a private school. Across the state. Without telling me. The transfer was already in process. He was planning to move the kids in with him and his new family. He really thought he'd get away with it. He thought wrong. That same day, I drove straight to the school. Brought everything, school records, custody laws, divorce paperwork, and a letter from our family therapist. The principal listened. Shocked. Said they'd never had a request like that without both parents signing off. They halted the transfer immediately. That night, I confronted Richard. In front of the kids. Yes, I did it in front of them, because they deserved to see the truth. "You tried to move them behind my back," I said. His jaw tightened. "I was doing what's best for them. You don't get to decide that alone." The kids looked confused, but not surprised. They'd seen the shift. The missed school events. The half-hearted questions. The way he barely looked up from his phone when they talked. My daughter stood next to me. Didn't say a word. Just stood with me. That hurt him more than anything I could have said. But the real twist? The woman he got pregnant? She wasn't his girlfriend. She was his client. A married one. I know because she called me. Her name is Rachel, she's 37, works in tech. She said, "I just found out he's still married to you. I thought he was divorced years ago." He lied to her, too. She thought they were in a real relationship. He told her they were. And now? She's pregnant. And furious. We met for coffee. Swapped stories. Compared lies. She's keeping the baby, but wants nothing to do with him. And she's not alone. Turns out he's been manipulating clients, especially women. offering legal favors for other favors. And lucky for me? He left a trail. Because when Richard gets arrogant, he gets sloppy. And he's always arrogant. So I gathered everything. It took 3 weeks. Emails, bank records, messages he thought he deleted. Witnesses, yes, actual people who'd had enough of his games. Turns out when you treat people like they don't matter, they remember. Richard underestimated a lot of people. But the biggest mistake? He underestimated me. After the school transfer failed, after Rachel threatened him with legal action and told her husband the truth, things unraveled fast. He panicked. Started playing nice. Flowers on the counter, groceries in the fridge, cooked dinner one night. Like that could erase everything. I let him act. Let him believe I might forgive. Meanwhile, I hired a real lawyer. Not a smug dinner guest, but a professional. She was sharp, calm, didn't need to raise her voice, just stated facts and let them burn. She explained everything. The offshore accounts, tax fraud. His attempt to move the kids, parental alienation. Hiding money, illegal. We filed. Loudly. Served him at work. In front of his whole office. A friend who worked there said he looked like he'd seen a ghost. But I wasn't done. I filed a report with the Maryland Bar Association. With evidence. The favors. The lies. The hidden money. They opened an investigation. Then I filed a police report. Not out of revenge, but because I wasn't going down with him. I protected myself. And the kids? They chose me. My son said, I don't want to live with someone who treats people like they're options. That one hit me. Because I had let Richard treat me like an option for years. I ignored the red flags. Laughed off the coldness. Believed him when he said, You're lucky I provide for you. I stayed when I should have walked away. Because I thought I was doing the right thing. Holding the family together. But now? I believe in something else. I believe in respect. And I finally gave it to myself. It took months. But the court sided with me. Full custody. He gets visitation. The house, mine. The hidden assets, found and frozen. His law firm dropped him like a hot stone when the ethics board came calling. Rachel had her baby, a little girl. Named her something soft, something lovely.